Sie fahren doch in Blasnit mit die Polisbus sind sicher Schweinefluten.
Right, Polly, I've got a report here from the Freckleton Chronicle about an alleged gigantic child-abusing yeti called Cyril Smith stomping round the Holy Trinity Churchyard in 1587 and a half.
What the F?
Or how about this? A rare sighting of the abominable Russell Grant raiding chicken coops on Beacon Fell, leaving mangled trails of feathers, intestines and soiled condoms down people's garden paths.
No, seriously, Laura, what the F?
What is the problem, you morose, working-class, genetically stunted codhead? Stop mispronouncing the phrase, what the F, all the time. It's getting more repetitive, one of Andrew Lloyd Webber's musicals, and shut your gaping gobble. Your jaw resembles Thora Hurd's bloomers swinging round her ankles after a troublesome dump.
I'm dead, you stuck-up walrus. Your submarine expanded in my cerebral cortex, exploding my brains and skull and hair extensions, all down Victoria Road. What am I doing in the twatter, as though nothing's happened?
Well, it's a long story, the sort of gripping narrative to tell one's grandchildren, or in your case, the grandchildren of some more attractive relative, around a roaring log fire on a windswept night.
Fair enough, forget it.
It all began that dank, foggy morning in Thornton Clevis, a miasma billowed from the salt-encrusted beach before settling on the grey boarding houses and wrapping its diaphanous fingers around the mangled corpse and blood-smeared submersible.
No, seriously, forget it. Where's that report about Freckleton chicken shagging?
The Laura Pendlebury Audio Adventures by Brian Hughes, Episode 6, The Reproductive Cycle of the Greater Spotted Toad, an instructive narrative on the sexual congress of amphibious life for inquiring young minds, with lurid descriptions and unnecessarily graphic close-ups of Belgian flogs in suspenders. Bill Bryson, the famous American travel writer, described Morecambe Bay in his Notes from a Small Island as easily one of the most beautiful places in the world, with unforgettable views across the green and blue Lakeland Hills. I've never travelled abroad. To be honest, Mr. Bryson's description has put me off. If Morecambe Bay is the best the world has to offer, I can only assume that the rest of the planet's one enormous prolapse. Regardless of this, our continuing story, now told in flashback for theatrical purposes, resumes in one unpleasant corner of the aforementioned cocklepicker's bog hole, or, to be precise, a circular shelter with a witch's hat roof sporting a broken clock known locally as the birdcage.
4 dead pensioners und one middle-aged schlepper mit ein busthead. Not bad for a morning's work. Because this for und aim of Higgins Ontarians, I must leave you, Miss Paramilitary, courtesy of my jaunting belt. Copyrights Tomorrow People, ATV Productions, 1975.
Put down your weapon, you horrible murdering wobbly blumon.
I'm not carrying a weapon.
Constable Shakeface, turn that taser off. She is obviously not of a coloured persuasion. In fact, if I'm not very much mistaken, which I invariably am, it's the adipose Miss Pendlebury, now sporting a dandelion clock hairdo and what appears to be 2/3 of Miss Jenkinson.
Inspector Promenade, hope you don't mind if I smoke. It's difficult not to after I've just had 4,000 volts tasered through my busters. Let me get this straight. The last time we met was in 1705, when I crushed Constable Makepeace beyond recognition with the twatter. Anything else you're not telling me?
It's a long story, miss. One that began as the St. Anne's spire sundial struck the midnight hour on June the 10th, 1705, and the screeching key dragged along the piano wire engine of the twatter oved into earshot.
Oh, no, you don't. These episodes only last 15 minutes, due to some convoluted commercial opportunity-seeking regulation on YouTube. We're not having multiple flashbacks. Who do you think you are? Terry Waite?
In a recent survey of average Joe Americans, a staggering 26% believed that the sun revolved around the Earth. Copernicus' theory has only been around for 500 years. You can't expect people to catch on to such matters immediately. This says more about the American educational system than most US politicians would care to publicise. Intriguingly, however, an increasing number of quantum theorists have reached the conclusion that the universe is held together by thought. The conjecture goes that, given that the Big Bang wasn't actually observed in compliance with Schrodinger's famous cat-in-a-box experiment, the alternative reality fields never collapsed. Therefore, the past must be a creation of our own imaginations. Or, to put it another way, the universe is constantly being rebuilt by our awarenesses. The question is, where are all these universally binding thoughts originating? Because it certainly isn't Earth.
This is BBC Lancashire News. Blackpool Council held an emergency meeting this morning after a hurricane snapped the tower in half, ripped the foundations from the Golden Mile, hurled several Romaners into the sea, and turned the pleasure beach into a mound of barnacled Joyce. An estimated £6.50 worth of damage was recorded. In Billing, the scientists have reclassified what they previously believed to be an undiscovered gene in a local pool, when it was revealed that Barbara Higginson of Higginson House, Higginson Lane, had briefly made contact with a stranger from Lancaster, who had accidentally stumbled off a bus outside the Pottery. In Thornton, riots ensued after a Muslim was sighted down Hawthorne Road. This later turned turned out to be a case of mistaken identity, and was in fact Tory councillor Albert Withenshaw, 98, who had just been bathing in his own faeces again. And in Thornton Cleaveries, what was described by witnesses as probably a woman was arrested following an incident involving a submarine, a humpback caricature from a Frankenstein film, and a burst skull. Vic Reeves and Bob Mortimer have denied involvement. The woman was said to be in her late 60s, wearing a chimney on her head and resembling a foam rubber mascot for pear drops.
Shouldn't you be on the other side of the door, Inspector?
More bloody likely. It's pension day out there. I've got Makewater manning the machine gun outside the post office, but some of the biddies have already broken out of the bingo parlours with their deadly pension books and brollies.
You haven't got the hang of the GPS on your jaunting belt, have you, Professor? This frog suit was a bit of a squeeze already, without you dematerialising inside it.
Quickly, Fräulein Frumpo Bertrand. We must hurry to Thornton Morgue. I have a cunning plan to save your assistant, Miss Jumbliss. But first, we must find a repugnant mangled corpse. Remove the drain cover conveniently located in the cell floor.
Phew! That stinks worse than Michael Barrymore's breath after one of his skinny dipping parties. Come on, Professor, while Inspector Bullshit's otherwise occupied watching that blue bottle on his nose, which explains the sound effect.
As regular listeners might expect, there now follows an elaborate, breath-mangling chase full of epilepsy-inducing strobe lights, death-defying stunts, and stomach-churning shots of dwarves in flasher max revealing themselves to ducks on a bench in Ankersong Park. As always, we ask our listener to, well, I'm sure you know the score.
Or we could just use your jaunting belt.
There are 5 enthralling stages of decomposition in human cadavers, termed chronologically as fresh, bloat, active decay, advanced decay, and remains. These expressions were first applied to Freddie Starr's career. For the morbidly fascinated, the obvious choice for elaboration is the bloat phase, during which anaerobic metabolism results in gases such as hydrogen sulfide, carbon dioxide, and methane, or, put in simpler terminology, one gigantic arseberg just waiting to happen. To illustrate the dangers of such combustible materials in untrained hands, there follows a short public information recording of the lecture given in 1836 at the Thornton Little Theatre to a group of medical students by the extremely late Dr. Gunther Franklin.
Gentlemen, what you're about to witness is not for squeamish. You will be well advised to place your stovepipe hats on your laps to throw up into. Mrs. Hudson, would you remove the sheet from our volunteer corpse?
Here, haven't pulled it back yet.
Get out, Mrs. Hudson, and next time you attend one of these lectures, wear a bra. Gentlemen, the cadaver of Lucy Skank, recently inhumed by Dr. Freckle, following knee trembler behind Dock Street in Fleetwood. As you can see, putrefaction has already set in around the ankles, thighs, and nose, leading to the bloated balloon before you. Such is the turgid nature of these combustible gases that Miss Skank's legs now resemble 2 baby carrots stuck in... My God, man! Put that meerschaum away! Don't strike that Lucifer!
And that was how Laura obtained her top hat when it smashed through the window of the Tatter during her inaugural flight, although it wasn't included in the original script. Getting back to the plot, it was among such dangerously expanded corpses laid out in heaps around the morgue stroke potting shed at the back of the town hall that the Professor and Laura now dematerialised with added reverb courtesy of the Foley artist, because potting sheds tend to lack dramatic atmosphere.
I appear to have dematerialised with my foot embedded in the recently departed Mayor Tanzan's soul. Fortunately, he never had much brains at the best of times. Otherwise, these Miss KG Bianca designer boots would have been a goner.
Pay close attention, Miss Bongy Buddy. In this flask, I have what we insane scientists call cloning juice. At this point in the script, I would like to thank the producers of Hello Hello for the loan of this very bad accent.
I thought cloning was achieved by placing a DNA nucleus into an empty egg.
Ha! You scientifically backward mother-headed cow. The feeble feminine brain cannot possibly comprehend such complicated genetics. Just one itty-bitty drop of this juice will be enough to create a whole new Molly Timkins.
Wouldn't it be awful, not a bit obvious and cliché, if by some clumsy mistake the entire flask was emptied onto her? What would be the chances of that happening?
Ego, you non-equity card-holding reprobate from Hammer. Find me the corpse of Polly Johnnikins. Ego, you incestuous crater-spotted toad. There is that hideous bolus of gravity-defying boulder clay.
I've looked at the script, and he's not in this episode. Terry Pratchett's probably poached him for a novel. Give me that dangerously uncorked flask. Polly's rotten bloated corpse is over here. Obviously, she hasn't started decomposing yet.
Be careful, Miss Plum Pudding. Don't trip over that blue-faced nonagenarian's outstretched arm. The whole flask.
What do you think?
Who am I? Why am I standing nude in the middle of a greenhouse full of deceased pensioners? Oh my God, I'm Wayne Rooney! What's going on? Well, it's just to make me hungry. Strictly on yet. Place things work on my now Inspector Powerstrike. What's going on?
There's hundreds of them, all bare and pink and wobbly. I'm suffocating.
Gott in Himmel! What ein exquisite light to go.
And so, with a series of threatening squeaks, the potting shed started to bulge and to creak, till the walls had expanded and windows had cracked. Then the whole lot blew up in a mushroom of fat. Polly Jenkins's pink and quite nude and bare filled the hedges, the streets, and the chill autumn air. One fell onto the doorstep of Hall's Handicrafts, where Miss Blenkinsop used it to keep out the drafts.
Oh, yeah, Mrs. Insular, it's raining peeled sea
Those bloody Muslims what done it. I warned the government this would happen. Coming over here illegally and their scorpions, using our benefit systems to build sea lion bombs and raping cats, living in enormous mansions, bought from our hard-earned pensions, while the rest of us starve, wearing tea towels on their dirty heads, wiping their privates on our curtains while we're doing a bingo. They're not like us, Mr. Underwear. They've got cocks shaped like pitchforks for a start.
Well, surely if they're here illegally, they wouldn't be entitled to benefits. I mean, officially, the only immigrants allowed to claim are those who pay their taxes into the system like the rest.
Do you hear that, Mr. Underwear? Sounded like some know-it-all Muslim lover what don't read the Daily Mail, expressing wind through his eye.
That were close. We was bordering on satire then.
The news at 11:30, read by Moira Stewart's brother Patrick.
The French are all bastards, it's official. Gerald Kaufman caught fisting armchair in storage. David Cameron denies cover-up. 5 hours after Thornton explosion, over 200 bodies disappear. Findus products implicated. ITN reporters are being recalled from the Bahamas and the Swiss Alps tonight to attend the carnage at Thornton Morgue in the Lost County of Lancashire. The following scenes have been sourced from amateur footage on YouTube.
Oh, dear God, this is awful. There's bodies everywhere, some of them in bits. Blood all over the shop. Pictures crying, double-decker on its side. I'm trying my best not to throw up. I'm sorry, but it's total devastation. The inhumanity of it all is too much to bear.
Oi, Manka. Yeah, you with the cell phone. This is my ass. Don't point your camera in a different direction. I just ran over here instead. Look, film my ass, you bastard. Take a close up of his chocolate starfish, you gay bastard.
Time to move forward to the plot, because we're running out of broadcast space. Eventually, the hectic, expensive commotion subsided, and Laura Pendlebury found herself face down in the rank-smelling ditch behind the Bay Horse pub in Thornton, having dragged the one surviving Polly Jenkins from the wreckage of the morgue.
Laura, is that your enormous backside just off the end of my nose? I hope so, otherwise I've fallen asleep between 2 hippopotamuses again.
Shut up, Polly. We're hiding in Thornton's main dike.
What, Edith Bagshaw from the knitting shop on Carlisle Drive? I'd heard she'd got some suction on her when she got going, but this is ridiculous.
The twatter's behind those trees. We need to reach it before Councillor George Miley staggers out of the pub and urinates at the console. Last time that happened, he short-circuited the percolator and was wandering around with a erection for a fortnight, nearly poking Councillor Beatrix Warburton's eye out during the minutes of the planning committee. Come on, Polly, old carriage.
Laura and Polly's exciting adventure in the Bay Horse car park.
Shift, you will.
Duck off, Beaky! Out of the way, Ermintrude. What the hell is this? Country fire?
Right, Polly, I've got a report here from the Freckleton Chronicle about an alleged gigantic child-abusing yeti called Cyril Smith stomping round the Holy Trinity Churchyard in 1587 and a half.
Oh no, we're not going through all that again, although it does explain why I've been stood here in the buff for the last 15 minutes.
So, to recap, the real Polly is dead, the new clone Polly is just the same miserable, grumpy old cow. So, by the rules of science fiction, we can continue our adventures without further question. Can't you hear the echoes of time? The universe calling Polly. Somewhere out there are mountains asleep.
That'd be my mother having her afternoon nap.
There are towns made of wind.
Yes, Thornton filed. Can I put some clothes on? My knees have gone blue.
And there are planets where the inhabitants are made of smoke.
No, that's the twatter. The console's on fire.
The reproductive cycle of the greatest spotted toad was the illegitimate brainchild of former archaeologist Brian Hughes. It starred Juliet Gregson as Pendlebury Laura, Michelle Harris as Jenkins Polly, Terry Sedgwick as Balustrade Inspector, and probably somebody else who, at the scripting stage, hadn't signed the contract. The music was supplied by Kevin MacLeod, apart from the bits that weren't, and the sound effects were found on the back seat of the 22A outside Leighton Crematorium. Don't forget to join us, Pendlebury heads, for the next riveting episode, Lost in Diane Abbott's Corsets.
Seriously, is Anybody got any spare clothes?